First and Now is the official BC Lions podcast. Matt Baker with you, along with Nick Kowalski, as always. Nick, and then there were one more in the regular season as the Lions entertain Calgary on Friday. Where's the time gone?
Yeah, it's been a quick season for sure. Like, I always look back to August flying by, but successful one so far. I mean, 12-5 now, a chance to improve on the record from last year, and coming off quite a dramatic victory on Friday in Hamilton.
Yeah, a chance to get to 13-5. We'll talk about that crazy win in Hamilton here in short order, but 13-5, have to go back to 2012. Mike Benavides was in his first year as head coach. Last time the Lions got to 13 wins in a season. It's been done a few times. 14 is the franchise record back in 2007. But yeah, if you told this team at the start of the year it would exceed its win total by one, get to 13-5, you figure might be in great shape to finish first this time and host a Western final. But as we know, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have had plenty to say about that, and we're going to talk about the playoff scenarios here as well. Still a slight opening in the path to first place.
Possible.
Unlikely, but possible. Yeah, that's why they play the games, as a wise person once said over and over again. And yeah, you do never know. The Winnipeg opponents may have something to play for, but we'll talk about the scenarios. Feeling like playoffs, right? A little bit rainy, a little bit windy, gloomy outside, short walk through practice as we record this at the end of a very busy Monday. But recording this podcast inside our TELUS Media Center, our boardroom, this place was hopping today.
Yeah.
Had a big TSN crew in here shooting some playoff features. Matthew Betts, John Bowman, a big part of that, the Matthew Betts angle. Be sure to PVR our home playoff game, because we know you're going to be going, most likely, if you're listening. But it's always nice to sort of see how those playoff and Grey Cup, possible Grey Cup features as well. We're not going to tip our hand on what's going on right now outside with that, because we want to wait and see if and when it happens. But just kind of cool to take our listeners behind the curtain of that great camera setup in here.
Yeah, quite the production, and obviously keying in on Matthew Betts for the first playoff game. And, the relationship he has with John Bowman, and then being a Quebec defensive lineman alongside David Bernard. So an obvious storyline there with Matthew Betts. But yeah, quite the production in here. Some red cameras they had rolling, which are some like top of the line production cameras that TSN brings in for these types of features. And it's funny too, this room that we're recording in, if you're watching, it's a room where it's become a defensive backs meeting room.
Yes.
So they had to kind of make it appropriate for feature documentation and all that. So they had to take out all the chairs in the meeting room, at the back of the meeting room. There's a candle the DBs have going that they had to remove, all the candy that hangs out in the room. So, but it's looking back to normal now.
They had to sort of black out the skylights,
that too.
Kind of give it kind of an intimate feel. So yeah, once again, November 4th or the 11th, be sure to PVR the CFL on TSN, because you will not want to miss this feature. Lions, Tiger Cats, 33-30, down to the wire, and this one kind of had it all, Nick. 5 lead changes, I think, in the second half alone, maybe even in the fourth quarter, but for sure in the second half. You saw some interesting penalties go against the Lions, give Hamilton a chance. I think at one point the Ticats scored on 5 straight possessions. Not a lot of punting going around, but Sean White, clutch at the end, 48-yard field goal. Dane Evans, in front of his old fans, his old friends, the team that traded him here. Of course, he had a lot of memories in Steeltown, a nice tribute they did on the scoreboard in the first quarter. Very nice job. Hats off to the Ticats in-house team for doing all that. But he has to relieve Vernon Adams Jr., and he engineers a winning drive, 4 for 4, getting Whitey into field goal range. Sometimes you just can't write the script.
It was perfect. Dane Evans, obviously it was his first time back in Hamilton since the trade in the offseason to over here. And he's someone who, like the team flat out moved on from him, right? And they ultimately dealt him. So you got to know that Dane was fired up in that moment. And I'm sure leaving the huddle, he like sprinted onto the field too. I'm not sure. I gotta pick that up if that's a typical Dane Evans thing. When the kickoff is down and the offense goes on, if he sprints onto the field, but he sprinted onto the field.
He moves pretty good. I'll tell you, taking you behind the curtain here. So the game where he took over for Vernon against Saskatchewan and came in and won it, played most of the game, he was requested for the TSN halftime interview. So that's usually kind of a mad dash. If it's an offensive guy and the offense is out, if you see ever me running onto the field, it's because I'm chasing. Trust me, I'm not getting a workout in on purpose. And Dane was not on the field. The defense was out there at the end, but I was kind of standing at the end of the sideline, and Dane came sprinting off. I kind of said, "Hey, Dane, yeah, oh yeah, no problem." So that's a regular trait. Maybe there was a little. There was maybe some more bounce in his step in this situation.
Little extra, definitely. Yeah. And then obviously the key play too, there's 4 seconds to go and they're probably just on the brink of that field goal range for Sean White, but as quick as a release as you can to Keon Hatcher, who gets down two with 1 second to spare. And then, as we all know, Sean White right down the middle. Sean White, he knew right off the bat. That was such a cool reaction too.
Celebrating before it even went through. Yeah.
Complete vet move there. And yeah, Dane was feeling himself afterwards. We've been posting all the all access content from the locker room after Dane Evans doing his speech. Rick Campbell jokingly that Dane ruined all the Ticats fans' night in his return for once. But yeah, it was a special night, and it just shows again how determined this team is and how close they are.
And an impressive win in the sense that Hamilton still had lots to play for. I mean, had they won and Montreal lost, that didn't happen ultimately. But they still would have been alive for a home playoff date in second place. Hamilton will now travel to Montreal again for the Eastern semifinal. And boy, oh boy, what a matchup that's going to be. But Team Hamilton was hungry, and people talk about Winnipeg and Saskatchewan as the toughest environments, and they are, but Hamilton's almost right there, Nick. It's loud. They announced a sellout, upwards of 25,000 fans, I think. So VA and the offense wasn't easy for them to operate, and Dane, really, when it was a tie game and they were trying to get out of there before overtime. Not an easy environment, and that's another element of how impressive this win was, bouncing back from a tough overtime loss against Winnipeg. And hey, if we end up having to go back into Winnipeg on November the 11th, maybe that Tim Hortons Field environment is kind of a good roadmap to succeeding in a sellout, loud environment. But just a cool overall football vibe at Tim Hortons Field, and an impressive venue, not an easy one to win at. The Lions hadn't won there since 2017.
Yeah, I was talking mid-commercial break with Stephen Chang. We're on the sidelines, over on the opposite side of the sidelines. And we were saying it's probably top 3 in terms of road cities to work in for us, in my opinion. Really nice tunnel from the locker room to the field, so that's always a great shot. So I got that shot. The lighting is great there. It was dark out, and the weather I thought was pretty solid. It was just some kind of that. It was raining in the second half, so that was our first rain game, quote unquote, this season. But there was really not much wind, unless maybe I'm speaking on Sean White's behalf here. But the situation seemed pretty ideal for the specialist. And then the great environment there. A lot of fans. The fans are pretty funny. They had a little beef with Mike Jones. Mike Jones is kind of playing along, but they were given, I guess, because he was a field corner on that side. So there was a section or two that was just yelling at Mike Jones every single play. So when Mike would make a play, he would give them a little point to let them know that he's doing his thing on defense. But yeah, Ticats, they're going to be a tough out, and we were talking about Montreal and Hamilton. That's a toss-up to me right now.
Yeah, and the winner of that will have been in playoff mode for a while. Might that give them a slight edge going into Toronto? The Argos will still be the favorite in that East Final. Don't get me wrong, top to bottom, the best team pretty much all season long. But you never know. You never know what. If clinching early like they did may have an effect. I would say not. I mean, Ryan Dinwiddie and the coaching staff there seem to have a pretty good handle on things. They're keeping a lot of the regulars in, resting them in spots. But that's going to be an interesting storyline. So, and yeah, you and I both went to visit the Hall of Fame bus on the club level. Very
Super
cool.
cool,
So
yeah.
we took Paul McCallum in there, got a picture of him with his bust, and seeing the likes of Louis Pasaglia, John Bowman, Brent Johnson, the new Lions class, Solomon Elamimian, Larry Crawford. Just a very cool football environment. If you're a fan of three-down football, Canadian football, a game in Hamilton has to be on your list if you haven't crossed it off.
And one tradition I've taken up this year is I like to go to the very top row of the away stadium and just kind of sit there for a bit. It's a great view. You're really not that high up, but at the same time, the skyline on one side, I think if you're on the west end zone, if you look to your left, you're looking at these like steel factories. But if you're on the other side, you're looking at like a hill going up to the downtown Hamilton area. So really cool skylines there. You're not really far from the field anywhere. It's a wide open stadium too, right? Both end zones are made for a standing section, so I think that's a cool factor too. You know, that's usually where younger people like to hang out too, right? Have some beverages during the game and hang out in the end zone standing there. So yeah, it's a really cool venue. And then for like I was saying with Steven, for the working conditions, it's right up there. I would say Toronto comes to mind for me, and also Saskatchewan when it comes to visuals, having a nice tunnel, Wi-Fi, all of that. It's pretty spang on there.
And we hope to get back there. That's the goal at the end of the day. We're taking this one game at a time like we always do, but just hard in the back of the mind not to think about what maybe is to come about 4 or 5 weeks from now would be outstanding. So Lions are 12-5, and let's get a handle on these scenarios very quickly for a couple minutes before we talk a bit about Calgary Friday. Just you and I on this episode. Lots to chew on. And we'll talk about some regular season memories here in short order as well. But we've had some fans, season ticket holders, fans online, still not sure when the home playoff date is. Lions are at home for their first playoff game. And we're going to lay it out for you. So a Lions win Friday. Still alive. Still, you want to get a bit of a draft in at night. It's a little warm in your apartment or your condo. And you just kind of open the window, like just a little crack, get it in there.
Take first place?
Yeah.
Perhaps?
That window, that crack in the window, still going to be thick of Gene Steratore when he measured and he used his index card to see if it was a first down in that Thursday night game, I think it was, or Sunday night game several years ago. It's going to be open, okay? Lions win, have to have Winnipeg lose too. Bombers host the Elks Saturday. Final game for Edmonton, playing for pride. Maybe they get motivated. They've been playing well lately with Trey Ford, and maybe they rise to the occasion. Winnipeg then goes into Calgary on the final Friday, October 27th. So Lions win, still alive, but Winnipeg still has to lose their remaining 2 games. A Lions win and Winnipeg just wins one of their games. That's it. Second division semifinal on November 4th. A Lions loss on Friday, and you toss all this out, that would clinch Winnipeg first place without having taken the field again since winning here in overtime on October the 6th. So yeah, the Lions are playing their 2 remaining games before Winnipeg plays another one. They had the bye last week. So, and I suppose if we really want to dig a little bit deeper into this thing, Nick, what you want is, after a Lions win Friday, knock on wood, and if Edmonton, knock on wood, takes care of Winnipeg Saturday, Saskatchewan plays Toronto Saturday. So here's the wild card. If those 2 results we talked about just happen, Lions win, Elks win, then you're pulling for Toronto to beat Saskatchewan, because then Calgary, the door is still open for them. They would be able to still clinch a playoff spot on the 27th by beating Winnipeg. They'd have everything to play for, season on the line. So I don't know how much that plays into it. If Calgary is eliminated or if they've clinched already, who knows? But that's the brunt of it.
You nailed it all. I thought, but when you said we were going to root for Toronto, I thought it's because we just don't like Saskatchewan. But that works for me too.
Well, yeah. Anyway, you slice
that
it.
works for me too. The wildest situation though, I was looking at after Calgary beat Saskatchewan to keep their season alive on Friday night, is that the Riders, that game on Saturday hosting Toronto, that's their final game of the season. So
yes.
So if they drop to 6-12, their season's over, but they have a bye week at that final week of the season when Calgary plays Winnipeg. And if Calgary wins, Saskatchewan's out. But if Calgary loses, Saskatchewan's in. So they all have to, there's a situation possibly
where they don't know. Yeah.
And they have to stay in Regina for an extra week, practice. Like they may have a playoff game, but they don't know for it. So there's a situation where they practice, stay there a week, and then have to go home and are eliminated.
Yeah, I mean, I know people are kind of mixed on that, having the 3 byes in the last week. Lions, Riders, and Elks have the bye. And I guess they don't want a situation where we've had the last couple of years where all 4 games on the final week are meaningless. That has happened, I think, the last 2 years, both times. So you understand it from a broadcast perspective, TSN, everything. A league perspective, attendance, right? If you have 4 games in the last week where there's no playoff implications, that's not great for butts and seats either. So, but then, yeah, you have a flip side where Saskatchewan, they've played their 18 games, they have a bye, but they don't know if they're cleaning out their lockers or playing another football game. So, kind of some good chaos if that happens. But, yeah, that's another wild card situation. We were talking about that on the flight home from Hamilton, I think, a bit, right?
Yeah, everyone's glued to their phones watching that final drive.
As Calgary was putting the finishing touches, Cam Judge pick 6 kind of blew that thing open, and yeah, who wants that third and final spot in the West? It's in Calgary's hands. If they win 2 or they win 1 and have Saskatchewan lose Saturday, then it's theirs. Could be Calgary coming back here in a couple of weeks. That's a scenario that we haven't kicked around too much yet because we're not 100% giving up hope on the Western Final. So it is Game 18, a chance to get to 13-5, a chance to sweep Calgary in a season series. That hasn't happened since 2005. Lions won both games against Calgary that season. There was only 2. 2007, sometimes these old media guides come in handy, Nick. 2007, unbeaten against Calgary, but 2 wins and a tie, so technically not a sweep. So a lot at stake in this one. History, playoff implications. Matthew Betts needs 1 sack to break the Canadian single-season record. Ben Hladek, 5 defensive tackles, and he'd be the first Lion Canadian to get 100 in a season, and only the 4th ever in league history. So if you're on the fence, buy a ticket. You could be seeing some milestones. Blackout night, more on that before we're done. But final regular season game, Nick, it's been a great regular season. The 69th in franchise history. How will the playoffs come to fold in the end? We shall see. But a lot of great memories going into Winnipeg week 3, just dismantling the Blue Bombers. Couple of shutouts, both against the Edmonton Elks. Crazy comeback against Ottawa when the Lions came up off the mat and came back from 19 down in the 4th quarter. Those are some of the obvious memories, but let's each pick 1 or 2. As far as regular season memories, what do you take away?
I probably the obvious one I go to, and I'll give it an honorary mention, I guess. Now that you say I can't use it, but Lucky Whitehead's game-winning touchdown at Ottawa that's my highlight from most memorable moment from this season. But if we had to go with maybe like the unorthodox choice, I'd probably week 10 against Calgary was a really fun game. I thought it was entertaining wise. You had the quick start from VA. It was VA's return to the lineup too after that loss, that big loss at Winnipeg. So VA came in, threw for over 300 yards, trio of touchdown passes, and kind of just assured that everything is fine when it comes to BC Lions land in the middle of the season. And for my sake, like the VA starts that game with a touchdown to Hollins, and then later in the quarter throws a pass in the back of the end zone, and while I'm filming it, it looks like it's literally coming out my face. And then Keon Hatcher jumps out of nowhere and snags for a touchdown, as close as he could be to me. So that was a cool moment. And that overall was just one of those games where like everything was just coming to me. You had Matthew Betts knocking a punt out of Cody Grace's hands. Patrice Rene recovering it. I'm right there in front of it.
They came to play that night.
They all came right in front of me. Gary Peters busted out his piano celebration for the first time of the season. Lucky Whitehead scored his first touchdown of the season. So I think entertainment-wise, it was a fun game, and for my sake, it was one of those games where everything just kind of came right toward me, which is always fantastic.
37-9, I think it was. And that was when the streak was alive of not allowing touchdowns at home. They only allowed 1 home touchdown in I think the first 4 games. That was against Montreal. I'll go. I'm going to go week 1 in Calgary. Remember, Lions and Stampeders. It was the standalone league opener, the Thursday night, 8th of June, I think it was. Remember, you had a couple of the experts, why is the Lions and Stampeders opening the season? Should be a Grey Cup rematch, huh? Anyway, can't resist poking a little fun at people sometimes, but we'll leave that for now. Impression was spot on, I think.
Whom?
Well, just
experts.
Yeah, just there's always a few experts on 3-down football out there.
Yeah, they were wrong though. Great game, right?
We won't. I mean, yeah, like historic rivalry, playoff rematch. Yeah, why not? I mean, doesn't have to be a Grey Cup rematch to open the year. That's like the same people. Halftime Grey Cup has to be Canadian. No, it doesn't. Just nonsense. You're gonna get me going here, Nick. Green Day's gonna be awesome, by the way. Anyway, I'm fired up, as you can tell. So Lions and Calgary, BC, of course, and maybe this was why it was the season opener. Playoff rematch. Lions took it to the Stampeders in the Western Semi 30-16, but the game wasn't that close, let's be honest. But despite all that, Nick, here's why I'm going memories for this one. You were kind of hearing some of the same storylines. How are the Lions going to stop Calgary's run? How are the special teams units going to match up? VA, how's he going to duplicate what Nathan Rourke did? The Lions, it seemed to be the team that were having all these questions asked about them, even though they got the last laugh and were the team that went farther in the playoffs. And that was a good one for me. Dominique Rhymes, 2 touchdowns in the first half from VA. And then he started with the head top and the World Vision donations. Very good cause. Almost let the game slip. Remember, TJ Lee had the interception and tried to lateral it back, lost it, and then we're like, okay, here we go. We're letting Calgary back into this. But this defense, this dominant first half of the season defense, hasn't quite been on the same level, but they're still playing pretty good, making plays when they have to. Defense holding Calgary to just one late fourth quarter touchdown. So we came out of there thinking, okay, this Lions team, although it's only week 1, has just made a big statement, big road win in the division to start. I know it was a long time ago, but that's going to stick with me.
That was a fun one. And that first half you talked about with Dominique Rhymes, Vernon starts that game off 10 for 10 with a touchdown to the Rams. So that's when I thought there, okay, like we're not missing a beat at quarterback. He's going to be right there in MLP talk all season long, and his plays back that up.
Yeah. And that, and then came back, shut out Edmonton in the home opener. We saw LL Cool J, outstanding pre-game performance. Another shutout of the Elks in late July. And I know it didn't go so well a few nights later in Winnipeg, but it happens. So those are the ones for me.
Yeah, a lot of good moments too. The Regina game, even though we came out on just fell a little short,
Very entertaining.
That big comeback, yeah, very entertaining game. You saw the peace sign from Lucky Whitehead get brought out. Vernon throws for 450 in that game, right? If I'm not mistaken, 455, I think. Because it was 458 in the other one, yeah. So kind of started his
second highest total of the year so far, yeah.
Yeah, it started his true dominance over the Riders this season, and it's always fun playing at Mosaic too, right? So yeah, a lot of good memories. Montreal is another fun one that comes to mind.
Oh yeah,
the late Smoke Mizell drive, and just looking forward to what's coming in the future.
Yes, either the division semi on November 4th or the division final November 11th. Can't beat playoff football in Vancouver. No matter what the date, no matter what the opponent, should be a fun one as we make a run toward the Grey Cup and a hopeful return to Hamilton on November the 19th. All right, a couple more minutes here before we're done. Again, just you and I today. A lot of topics to throw around. I'll be back with a guest perhaps next week. But what about this Calgary game Friday, Nick? The Stampeders are going to be playing desperate because they are desperate. They might need to win their final 2 depending on how Saskatchewan does. But it is in their control. What are you looking for here from a Lion perspective in terms of what they have to do?
I think the defensive dominance is something that I'm hoping that this unit gets back to, right? It's been something they've kind of, like you said, been accustomed to on home field this season. They've done it against Calgary once already on home. So
just the 24 points allowed against Calgary, right, in 2 games?
And then 9 in that other game, right? So a lot of interceptions.
Yeah, 15 and 9, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a big key point. Another thing that I'm just looking at an area where Calgary's statistically they don't look like they're 5-11, but if you look at their stats, it's not like they're like when it comes to teams.
They have some performers,
Yeah, and it's not like they're at the bottom of really anything. The one area they kind of are trending toward the bottom is they do allow a lot of rush yards. So we'll know a lot more in practice this week, whether it's Jaquan Hardy or Taquan Mizell at running back this week for the Lions. But that's an area where Calgary's proven to be exposed this season. But they got a high-flying offense too, right? Jake Mayer, Reggie Bagleton's 1,000 yards. Markin Michel's a speedster.
Michel's been a nice re-addition for them. Yeah.
So those are the two areas I'm looking at: the shutting them down on defense, not allowing many points, and then seeing if they can bust up on that run attack.
All right, come celebrate Halloween with us in style. It's our blackout night, encouraging fans to wear black or their favorite Halloween costume. Halloween-themed fan appreciation. Those who dress the best will receive some cool prizes. Tell me more about this halftime show, though, too, Nick. Stay in your seats at halftime.
Oh, yeah. I guess we can tease this, hey? So
yeah,
there's a big project going on for halftime this on Friday, and I'm really excited for everyone to see it because it's been a lot of work on a lot of people's ends. But we're essentially just doing a season in review piece. So it's going to be, my end of it is the visual. So we've been editing together a video. It's going to be narrated. Has a really cool music track to it that will also be synchronized to the light show that's going to be going on with the whole blackout theme. And, it being dark out on Friday night in the Dome, right? So there's going to be a really, really cool light show. They're bringing in a company to get it all going and make sure it's all spot on. That will match the video too, right? So, and it's like we just talked about. It's been quite an interesting season, entertaining season. So, you get to relive all those moments. We're gonna have some never before seen footage in there. So,
love it.
Yeah, a lot of special stuff that's gonna be showcased at halftime on Friday.
Secure your tickets, bclions.com. Adults in for $25, kids 17 and under in for $10. And backyard party presented by Play Now Sports. $5 Molson Coors beverages included outside on Terry Fox Plaza. Musical entertainment, games for the kids. Rumors of a Halloween themed menu as well. Maybe some candy and pumpkin spice if you're into that kind of thing. So,
I am.
Yes, absolutely. October 20th, Lions and Calgary for the final time this regular season. Lions will have the bye to end off. We appreciate you all for tuning in on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe, rate, leave a review. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at BakesTakes84. He is at Nick_Kowalski. Nick with a K, no C. And we'll be back next week to start looking ahead to playoff football. Like we said off the top of this episode, time flies when you're having fun.
It's been quite a ride.
All right. Be careful out there. We'll talk next week.